I am so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, nice. Likewise. I mean, it's been fun talking about this project. So,
Good, good. So, I have to admit that I've been a fan of Bon Jovi since they were considered a hair band back in the 80s. What made you interested in this story? And tell me about how you wanted to construct it.
well, I'm in the incredible, fortunate position. John approached me. He had seen something I had done a couple of years ago called Man in the Arena, which is about Tom Brady. And historically, I've done mostly sports stuff, worked with a lot of athletes. And that series looked back at Tom's 20 years of success on the football field. And John said, yeah, John's a huge football fan like me, and said it's pretty good. And Tom, 20 years, not bad. Well, I've got almost 40. At the time it was year 39. We've never really told our story. I'd like to. And would you be interested in being a part of it? And I was like, are you kidding me? Yes. Like you said, your name of your company is called Religion of Sports. I was like, John, don't worry about it. I'm creative. I'll figure that out. He had a vision. And as I learned over time, like John wills his vision to existence. He saw it as a multi-part thing. He's like, oh, it's 40 years. So maybe it should be 4 parts, divide by decade. And I was like, yeah, maybe. Give me some space to figure this out. I quickly sort of observed, we were in year 39, that something was going on with his voice, that he was struggling a little bit. And I said, what's up with that? And he said, well, I've been losing my voice for 2 years. I'm about to start rehearsals in March, it was February. And then I'm going to go out in April, do 15 dates and see if I still got it, if I can still do this. But that's not for the documentary. I was like, no, no, no. That's
Yeah,
for the documentary.
yeah.
That's okay. No, that's really important, John. And look, he was, we had a chemistry, I think, and a trust. In part, I think he sought me out, and so he let me, come out with him, and that's when it started to be like, yeah, the 4 parts make sense. I don't know if it's per decade, but there's also this present day thing that we're going to thread throughout it. So it started, and I have an amazing support team, creative team that was working behind the scenes while I was out there sort of helping think through how's this going to lay out.
And I feel like you can feel it because I feel like there are moments in this documentary where you capture a moment in history, you capture a moment in music that I felt so deeply. And also, I loved seeing it kind of through the Jon Bon Jovi lens. What, if anything, did you find surprising about making the series?
Surprising, I would say. Well, I mean, it's something as simple as like John, told me, he's like, it's the writing. That's the thing that I love the most. Then the recording, then the performing. And like I too grew up sort of watching it. So I had seen a lot of the performances, the hair band, the MTV, behind the music, all that, or the acoustic stuff. But oh, it's the writing, it's the sort of obsessing over the lyrics, it's the observing the world around. Like that's the thing that wakes him up in the morning and really keeps him going. So I think that was good. I mean, that was cool. I think then there was also just the challenge of it, like, okay, 40 years of story involved archive and all of that sort of stuff, 5 original founding members, a lot of other guys over time. How do you honor everyone's truth and but also try to find an objective truth if such a thing exists? And again, I asked John early on, I'm like, time, like that's the thing that and he gave that space, and he was also very busy and focused on figuring out what was going on with his health and stuff like that. So I had the luxury of that. He was distracted.
Actually, let's talk about his health and voice struggles a little bit because I didn't, first of all, I don't think many of us had any idea how much he was struggling with his voice and performing, and that he let us in so deeply. I felt really moved
Yeah.
by it. So why was it important to you to show that and to be so honest and open about it?
I think that, the rock star stuff, and there's a lot of it, and a lot of it was documented, thankfully. So that's super fun, but it's not particularly relatable. What's relatable is being a human being, loving this thing so much, wanting so desperately to be able to do it and not being able to do it, and struggling through it and searching for the solutions and stuff. So I felt like, that's that's what makes this story work. It's what gives it urgency and some stakes. And the only way to do that, and I think John's really smart. So like when I sort of started explaining why I wanted to do this, I was like, the only way to do it is be vulnerable, be open, be honest. And the good news is like we're not, like I said, we had times it wasn't like, hey, we're doing it now and then we're putting this out on Instagram tomorrow. It's like you can be open and vulnerable because you can trust me. Like we're gonna like figure this out over time, and you can let me into these rooms and stuff. And he did. There were a couple times he kicked me out of those rooms, and I would just sort of like okay, and then like sort of slowly slip back into the room. And but I think that relationship, there's a lot of trust there. And I just think he understood like if you're gonna do this, can't be some vanity piece. He can't be, directing it from behind the scenes. Audience are too sophisticated, too smart, especially his audience,
Yeah.
who've sort of grown up with him. They'll smell the bullshit, and so like I think he intuitively understood all of that, and then again just allowed us to do our thing.
Great. Well, I have to thank you for reintroducing me to a band I thought I knew. I learned so much about this band. Um, and my final question is, if there's one thing you hope the audience takes away, what would it be?
I think about this a lot because I have a 16-year-old son, and I'm always like, "What's the takeaway?" And it's the work ethic.
Mm.
John's gift was not the beautiful voice or the beautiful hair, or as Tico Torres says, the beautiful ass. It was the work ethic. It was there in the beginning. It's still there now. It was the unwillingness to take no for an answer when the 10 doors were slammed in his face when he took Runaway out, and everyone said no. He found the 11th door and he slipped in through the back way. And like that's the type of thing that's like I said earlier, the rock star stuff is not, a lot of people dream of being rock stars. Not everybody achieves it, but that work ethic is that you can do. Like you can, and that will, whatever your dream is, will help you on your path. And I think that to me is like it's also the reason this band is now into its fifth decade, new hit single, new album coming out, all that stuff is because he's still that guy. Like he's still grinding away. And I find that really, the legacy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for making this. I found it so interesting and entertaining, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And that's lovely to hear after all the many, sitting in the edit room, you never know, but it's really nice to hear.